Hey guys, welcome back. How's it doing, Garage? Mike here. So today we've got a different type of video. I mean, I've only got like 6 videos out, so they're all kind of different, I guess. But today we're working on an import. Today we're working on a Toyota MR2. We're basically just gonna be doing some mechanic work on it, which is something I also normally don't do. But we're gonna be doing a little tune-up, new ignition, and then we're going to be doing some sway bar end links, which I see we got a couple sets here, and then some lower ball joints, and then we're also going to be adding a catch can. This is just like it looks like an Evil Energy Amazon special catch can, nothing crazy. And then we're also going to be fixing the idle screw on this car. The car, when it came in, had it idled really high, like 1400 RPMs high. So we found out that it had a vacuum leak on it, and what had happened was the vacuum leak was causing it to idle up way high. So they were adjusting the idle screw in and in and in and in to the point where it wouldn't go in anymore. So they just took the screw out altogether. And then when I fixed the vacuum leak, now it's trying to idle at like 300 RPMs because there's no idle screw in it. So we're going to figure out what thread pitch the screw is, put a new screw back in it, adjust the idle back up to where it should be, and then do all the rest of this stuff. So hang with me, and we'll get set up and figure out where we're going to put the catch can, and do the ignition stuff and the screw, and then we'll get it up on the lift and do all this suspension stuff. Alright, so this is the engine of the Toyota, if you couldn't tell. So obviously there's been some fingers in here at one point in time, because there's just like, I mean, there's just vacuum hoses everywhere, not hooked up. Just like random things run everywhere. You know, manual boost controller. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but yeah, that's nice. So anyway, what I'm gonna do is I have the catch can here. So the catch can actually came with this bracket, and I'm going to mount this bracket. I found a little hole down here where something's been taken out. So I just took this bracket, drilled a hole in it, and I'm going to mount it right down here like this, and then the in will come into the valve cover. Well, the valve cover will come out into this, and then the out, we're just going to vent it to atmosphere. So I'll plug the intake, and yeah, so we'll mount this and plumb this in, and then we'll get to doing the ignition stuff. So yeah, I'll hurry up and get this mounted real quick. So we've got the catch can mounted down here, and there's plenty of room on the bottom to unscrew it and drain the oil out. I routed the intake tube. I had to use this little elbow because it was just too much of an angle. I couldn't move this, so I'm guessing there's something in there. In my head, I was just gonna spin this and then just go straight over to the catch can, but I couldn't spin this, so I had to put this elbow in here that was actually in the intake. So I just reused this elbow so that way it didn't kink this hose up too hard. But that's all done. And then this was a pain. This took forever. So down inside, you see that shiny bolt in there, that's the idle screw. So when this thing had such a gnarly intake leak, they took that screw out and the throttle blade was actually closing all the way, and it was still idling like 1400 RPMs. So once I fixed the intake leak and then it wouldn't idle at all, I was like, man. So I found the idle screw was missing. And then another thing that kind of led me to believe something was up was when you let off the throttle blades went past like where they were supposed to, because the idle screw was missing, and they would jam closed. So when you would go to gas it again, it was like it was stuck. So it'd be like, because you had to push on the pedal so hard. So we've got that fixed. Now what we're gonna do is move on to the ignition stuff. So I've got the spark plugs laying here. They're pre-gapped, and I've already put a little anti-seize on them. The caps here, the rotors here, we'll put those on. I've got the plug wires here. Got a little dielectric grease for the boots. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this now, and then we'll get it up on the lift and do the other stuff that needs to be done. So we got all the ignition stuff's on the motor now. I've got the idle tuned a little bit. It's running really good. I mean, it sounds pretty good. So it sounded a lot better than it did. It was barely running before. So I'm gonna get it up on the lift, and we'll start looking at the rear or the front suspension stuff, the sway bar and tie rods and stuff, and see where we're at on that. All right, so we got the car up in the air. One thing I've seen so far that's kind of alarming, but is we have new sway bar end links, but you can see this end link is some kind of aftermarket jobby, but you can tell it's not even like tight up in there. But this side over here is way. His complaint was a lot of front end noise, and one thing I do know, I'm not a mechanic, but I've had cars like my old lady's got a Cobalt, and it had a bad sway bar end link in it. And it sounded like the whole front end was coming out of that thing every time you hit a bump, and it was just a sway bar end link that was wore out. So this here, this would cause a ton of clunking, claddling, and racket, going down the road. When every time you hit a bump, that would just be gnarly, So we'll get that changed out. He's got some outer or inner tie rods he wants changed out, and some ball joints. All of this stuff over here on the table, inner tie rods, ball joints. Yeah, we'll get this stuff put in there. I hope these fit in there, because these look quite a bit shorter. Yeah, these are quite a bit, or these ones are quite a bit longer than these factory ones. So I guess what we're gonna have to do is see if we can screw this thing up some. I don't know. Let's figure this out. We'll figure out what thread pitch this is and cut this down and rethread it. Either way, we'll get after it. Alright, dudes. So we've got the tie rods out, the sway bar end link out, and then I've got the ball joint in on this side. It's just 2 bolts, and then you take the ball joint out and replace it. It's pretty self-explanatory. But so the sway bar end link, we have an issue. Well, had an issue anyway. So this is the old one. So I mean, it's roached pretty gnarly. I actually had to cut this to get it out because it was seized up. But I mean, like, it's donezoed. So these aftermarket end links were 2.5 inches too long. So I actually had to cut this down and rethread it. So I wasn't gonna do that because these sway bar brackets on these coilovers are supposed to be adjustable. There's a little set screw right here, and you're supposed to be able to adjust this up and down. Well, I've loosened the set screw, and this was super rusty, but I've cleaned it all up and sprayed some penetrating oil and everything on it and cleaned it all up. But it only does like 1.5 turns, and it locks right down and will not go up any farther. So I had to shrink the sway bar end links because I'm not getting into tearing this all apart and doing all this other hokum. So I just cut and rethreaded this end link, shortened it up. It was 2 3/4 of an inch too long, so now we're good. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this all back together. Trey's here now. You can see his hole in his crotch. He's putting this other side back together. Yeah, we got the thing. And it's all, you know, this. But like this side here, like this side moves freely. But the other side, I got like 1.5 turns out of it and it locked right down. So this side moved fine, but the other side is junk. So we're gonna get this all put back together and then get it back down on the ground. Alright, so we've got ball joints in, inner tie rod in, sway bar end links are in, everything's good to go. We're all finished with this one. So this project's all done now. This gentleman's gonna come pick her up. So it's not something I normally do. I'm not generally a mechanic. You know, we just do custom car stuff around here, but you know, every now and again you gotta do some stuff for your buddies. So yeah, so this one should be good to go, and he's gonna take it and get an alignment done on it and go start enjoying it now that he can start driving it. So yeah, well, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, throw us a comment down below, and we'll see you guys on the next video.